and welcome to another edition of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com, with me as your host, Chris Toy Unfair McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80. Joining me today to recap New York Toy Fair 2019 with some top picks and honourable mentions are Adam, Breakin Riches, and Justin, Marbell Legend Bell. Get it? So without further ado, let's get stuck into this news burst. So, this past weekend at the Jacob K. Javits Convention Centre in New York City, we were spoiled by toy companies in all shapes and sizes as they revealed product for future release. The internet has been abuzz with brand new action figures, playsets, games and so on, as well as some really cool displays all weekend. So we thought we could highlight some of our favourites with a top 3 each and some honourable mentions at the end, of course, for reasons. I have enlisted the help of Adam and Justin for this one. Whenever I need specialists, I send them a message via a special Full Force wristwatch communicator a la Mask. Adam has left his 80s rock band in the middle of a performance, and Justin just got out of his car in the middle of an intersection and legged it to the closest internet cafe. Okay, number 3. Justin, who did you have for your number 3?
Number 3 was the Masters of the Universe Classics movie figures, the He-Man and Skeletor, and they had a couple variations of Skeletor, but I think it was just unbelievable that they got the license to do these figures anyway. I think Mattel has been struggling with that for years, but somehow Super 7 takes over and immediately they just crap them out. But the figures look really awesome, and I was pretty psyched to see those.
That gold Skeletor, oh
yeah.
My goodness. I cannot wait. Yeah, they look great. Like, so detailed.
They do.
Have you got many of the Masters of the Universe Classics already?
Oh, I've got a bunch of them. Yeah, it's one of the few lines that I still have on regular display in my toy room is a full shelf, like probably 12 feet worth of Masters of the Universe Classics.
Yeah, I feel it's weird how Matty Collector were just churning them out at one point. When I mean, we had over, I think it's close to over 300 figures. I think it's easily surpassed that, actually.
Yeah.
And now, you know, Super 7 pick it up and you think, you know, what have they got left to do? And they pull this out. I mean,
yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, can't wait. Adam, what was your number 3?
Oh, I'm just ready to jump into Toy Fair 1989 recap here. I'm so excited. I have really strongly formed opinions since literally nothing shown at Toy Fair this year isn't at least rooted in something from 3 decades ago. Also, before I jump into my picks, I have to read a quote that my friend Brian Beatty put on Facebook that I just thought was so apropos here. And that quote is, "Toy Fair is that special place where everyone thinks they were dating exclusive, then they find out their licensor is a hoe." And Brian, for those listeners that don't know, is an amazing toy sculptor that has done literally everything you can imagine. But anyway, that's it. Let's get into the picks here. My number 3 pick is Grand Moff Tarkin from Hasbro Kenner's Star Wars Retro Collection. Not a whole lot to say about this one that I didn't already say at length in our news burst about the Star Wars Retro Collection. So if you want my in-depth thoughts, I encourage giving that a listen. But the long short of it...
Don't do it.
Yeah. Is that I'm a fan of the concept of new figures done in a retro style. As such, the other 6 figures in this series hold virtually no interest in me whatsoever. But to get a vintage-style Tarkin, one of the most glaring omissions of the original Star Wars line, is certainly something to get excited about after 40 years. And from the pictures we've seen, the figure looks pretty solid. It is, of course, a little disappointing that I'll have to buy a whole board game I don't want just to get him, but I suppose that's just the cost of admission on this one. And if he really fits into the vintage figures like I'm hoping he will, this should be a great addition to our collections.
And just one more thing as well. I know we spoke about this on the episode, but it's like a separate carded figure that is then packaged in a window box, right, on the game. Yep. So yeah, it's all, I mean, it's like 57 different, it's like Inception packaging, this one. But yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing this figure as well. Like, it's another one that kind of, I don't know, is like, there's so much controversy around it as well now, with all, you know, literally every Star Wars vintage collector just going absolutely nuts right now. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, my number 3 pick for the third of 3. That's correct, right? I'm going with Ectotron. Now, this was the Ghostbusters Transformers crossover in toy form. That's going to actually also have a 5-part miniseries comic, which the covers, I believe, all the covers were revealed for that crossover event today, which I'll flash up on screen. And yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw it, I thought, this is amazing. The amount of like fan art we've seen over the years of Ecto-1 as a Transformer, as well as loads of other movie and pop culture media vehicles as Transformers, including that one where it's like I think it's like a t-shirt they did where you've got like a combiner of all of the different like movie vehicles and stuff like that. I always thought that was really cool. So to actually get an Ecto 1 in that fashion, I think is amazing. And I think they really knocked it out of the park with the build and also with the packaging, which is just glorious throwback Transformers packaging with a few little Ghostbusters nods on there too. So yeah, I'm really excited to see, you know, what this looks like in hand. And also a couple of things I didn't realize initially when this went up on the Saturday was with the fact that he's got a proton pack. I love that. I love the fact he's got a proton pack. He's got the goggles as well, like that you see Egon wearing in the movie. So I think it's all very, very cool, and I can't wait for that one. What are you guys interested in that at all?
Not at all. And I own every Ghostbusters figure ever made.
I think it's pretty neat. I don't know if I'll ever buy it, but I do. I think it's a neat idea. I think it's neat because of the potential more than the actual execution. I mean, I loved the original Ghostbusters movie. I thought it was hilarious, but I really, unlike Adam, apparently I don't understand like the absolute fascination with Ghostbusters as a property because it had one good movie and that was about it.
Well, you're wrong because Ghostbusters 2 is actually better than Ghostbusters 1.
Oh,
he was talking about Ghostbusters 2.
That's what I thought.
I love the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters cartoon, and I love the original toy line as well. So like this is, I don't know, it's one of those ones it's hitting me in two spots, this one personally. But anyway,
once it got into like the real Ghostbusters and those other Ghostbusters and all this weird copyright stuff and like one had a monkey in it or something, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, those are the fake Ghostbusters. We support the real Ghostbusters on this podcast.
All right, good.
Okay, so number 2. Adam, you can start us off with your number 2. Gross.
So, my number 2 pick is WWE Retro Series 9 by Mattel. This wave includes figures of Macho Man Randy Savage, a mid-90s era Goldust, Samoa Joe, and Randy Orton. So I should preface by saying choosing these as one of my top 3 picks is largely predicated on my love for the concept more than the actual execution. The original WWF Hasbro figures from the early 90s that these are inspired by are some of my absolute favorite action figures of all time.
Yeah.
They were the first toy line I ever completed. I always dreamed of getting more of them. So all these years later to have Mattel pick up the mantle is super cool. But that said, I feel like this line struggles a little bit with its identity. I think the best way to plan this line would be a 50-50 split of guys from the mid to late 90s and kind of pick up where the original line left off and modern guys. But it's been a little bit all over the place as far as what eras they're pulling from.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth mentioning that 3 out of the 4 figures in this series have the same body from the neck down, which now makes 9 times that tooling has been used. And that is just way too often at this point in the line. And I've got a picture here to demonstrate this, but in the original Hasbro line, over the course of 5 years, the most reused tooling was 5 times, and here in less than 3 years, we've already seen it 9 times. But in case this is all coming across as super negative, quite the contrary. I absolutely love this line and hope it continues forever. I feel like a kid again every time a new wave comes out, and I can't wait to add these to my collection.
I hate this, I hate that, and it's and I hate it, but I love this.
Yeah.
Is what you just said.
Isn't that what collectors are?
My second favorite reveal, and I hate everything about it. Yeah,
well,
right?
We also have to circle back to what I said when this started. This entire show is nothing but rehash, repurpose, remold. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm trying to grasp at what straws of positivity I can find because,
There you go.
you know, like I said to you guys, I don't know whether to just like accept the fact that all pop culture apparently stopped in my life ended in 1995, or just, you know, accept it and continue being excited about the same things for the rest of my life.
Would you have? I mean, like in terms of the body reuse, that was done quite a bit in the. I know you just mentioned this, but it was done quite a bit anyway in the Hasbro line. Have they reached the point where they've used or they've done more figures than they did in the original Hasbro line yet?
Not yet. They are quite quickly creeping up to that, though.
That might, you know, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But if they've used it 9 times already, it's kind of like, are there no other bodies they can kind of reutilize a little bit on that one?
No, there are. In fact, there's a few that have only been used once, which is what makes this so head scratching. Now, I mean, the one they keep reusing here is a great mold, so like I understand why, but and also like.
It's like the shock trooper of Mattel Wrestling.
Yeah, it totally is. You know, it's a tough thing because this line was originally only meant to be a one-wave Walmart exclusive, and I love the fact that it's carried on, and if this is what they have to do to make that fit within their budget, then I guess I'm just accepting of it, but obviously enough people are buying it that it's supported all the way now to Wave 9. So it's like, if there's enough people that want it and are that interested, you know, throw us a bone with some tooling once in a while, you know?
Totes. Okay, well, my number 2, I love saying that, is Combat Megatron. And that's this basically redecoed Arctic colour scheme Megatron for the War for Cybertron Siege Megatron, basically. And it's just amazing. I love the deco, I love the presentation, and it's just one of those ones that as soon as I saw, I was kind of like, oh, that is amazing. And I'm basically one for like ridiculous color schemes. I'm a huge Tiger Force fan, Euro Tiger Force, let's say as well, because I mean they're even crazier. But the G2 era of Transformers, some of the most ridiculous color schemes ever contrived. That's not the right word, but ever that ever existed. They just have the most insane color schemes. But this kind of Megatron one with this like grey base with then this green, almost like tiger stripe camouflage on it, is just gorgeous. And they're also going to be doing a Red Wing as well, a Voyager Red Wing, in a similar style and in a similar way. I think they're going to release it in this kind of cool box and all this kind of jazz. But anyway, I'm really stoked about this one. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I'm sold. Even if it's just a redeco, I'm such a sucker for repaints, and especially this era.
I agree. I mean, it's a nicely kind of obscure choice, but it uses modern tooling pretty effectively, and I think it's a pretty cool touch to have them include that in the line. And it's is it a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, or is it going to be mass retail somewhere?
Well, the Hasbro Pulse website revealed the existence of it.
Right, yeah.
And I think it has been on there as a pre-order. It is on there as a pre-order now, actually. So
gotcha.
I think, yeah, it will be. I imagine it will be an exclusive to them. But you know what it's like. I think they say exclusive, and then about a month later, you see it everywhere. And I know it's like a lot of independent stores, but like you see it in like Target and Walmart somehow. Like, but anyway, yeah, I'm digging this one. I can't wait for it. And now, Justin, what's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 is also a Transformers figure, the Siege Jetfire, which was an absolutely amazing reveal. I think we might have saw hints of it slightly before Toy Fair, but it was really revealed in all of its glory right at Toy Fair. And I even saw an awesome video that on Ben Yee's Transformers website that actually had John Warden showing all of the different functionality and the features of the Jetfire toy, and it's amazing. It's a marvel of engineering. It looks very vintage oriented, but you can put a mask on him and some armor on him and make him look kind of more like the toy, and then he's just had all sorts of awesome features, and one of the coolest Transformers toys I've seen in a very long time, and kind of backed off of buying Transformers a little bit, which is odd because Siege is some of the best looking stuff that I've seen in a while, but I've just kind of held back. But I don't know if I'll be able to hold back for Jetfire. That toy just looks really, really amazing, and it's one of my favorite. Jetfire has always been one of my favorite Transformers. It was he came out during that time when the Autobots were all cars, and he was kind of the first Autobot jet, which was a kind of neat touch back in that day. I don't remember if he came out before or after the Aerial Bots, but he definitely kind of stood out in that regard. And I kind of had him and Shockwave as two of my favorite lieutenants on either side of the battle. So I definitely have an affinity for Jetfire, and it's really cool to see him done in such an awesome way.
I love the fact they've got the flip insignia on his chest as well.
Yes,
to kind of denote both Decepticon and Autobot. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, really, really digging the Jetfire, and he would have been in my list had we not done this before the show and given each other like, you have that one kind of thing, because Jetfire, amazing. Very happy that they're doing him. And we'll come to some honourable mentions later on where there's a lot more Transformers stuff in there to talk about. But before we do that, number 1s, and I'm going to start on this one because that's how I've done it on this document, like an idiot. And I'm going with Boss Fight Studios reveal that they're doing Mimi LeFleur, which is just amazing. Now, for anyone that isn't aware of that name, Bucky O'Hare, Mimi LeFleur was the captain of the Screaming Mimi. I love that name for a ship. And she was basically the kind of female Bucky O'Hare in the show. I know obviously Jenny was the kind of more frequently used female character in the show, but in terms of like your kind of captain equivalent, she was basically female Bucky O'Hare. She's a fox, and I mean that in the actual sense of the term. She's a anthropomorphic fox.
You got a thing for Mimi, do you?
I've got yeah, she's a fox. Foxy. But she's just awesome. And what we've only seen, obviously, the unpainted prototype of the figure. But my goodness, already I'm seeing some incredible details in that figure. So we're seeing like a removable hat, which I'm guessing is pegged onto one of the ears or either of the ears, depending on how they do that. She has removable faceplates, much like the other figures do as well in that line. She also has like some incredible details on her, you know, on her actual figure, including some really cool, like weird reverse spurs on her boots, which are really cool as well. Like they kind of flap over the actual front of the foot rather than the back. But honestly, I'm so down for this. I can't wait to see the painted prototype, the painted version. Can't wait to see the actual production figure. And being a massive Bucky O'Hare fan, I just cannot wait to add her to the collection. So a massive shout out to Boss Fight Studio, who this is among many amazing reveals. And again, we'll get to some pretty cool honourable mentions later as well. Before that, Justin, your number one, please.
Oh man, and this is a tough one because I also loved all of the Boss Fight Studio reveals, and but the issue with making it so hard to choose was that there was just so many great looking figures. You know, I loved the new Boss Fight Basics that we saw, kind of a mixture of the Zombie Lab figures and some of the more fantasy oriented figures. You know, I really loved the Withered Branch Army. I loved the Fantasy Blank, the Reptile Green Fantasy Blank, where he had, you know, two of the Naga scaly arms, and you know, all that stuff was really cool. I think what took the cake though for the Boss Fight Studio reveals was probably the Irradiated Zombie. He just such an awesome looking figure. It looks like they had some retooling done, like his arms look a little bit thicker, like he might fit a little bit better than previous zombies did with the Hacks line. His ankles are different, so they actually, you know, they obviously did some tooling work on him. Plus, he's just a really exciting looking paint scheme. It looks like he's going to be a preview figure available on their web store on bossfightshop.com. So I don't know when he's going to be released, but a very, very cool, very striking looking figure that I really love. Probably gets my number one.
And box designed by Brian Hickey as well.
Yes, the box looks really freaking cool too.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
I made a little infographic here for you of what this figure reminds me of. He is the perfect love child between the Nickelodeon Muckman figure and Blanca from Street Fighter 2, and I absolutely love it. Everything about this figure is just so cool. He's like their weird alien baby. The deco is just so fire. It's just so awesome. It's strange how with action figures there can be so many things that draw you to them. It can be the story, it can be a media tie, and it can be how they look in the way of their end. For whatever the reason, and you know, obviously we're all friends at Boss Fight. We all know they do incredible work, but you look at their display, and there could be 1,000 figures, and my eye just infrared right to this figure. I don't know what it is about him, but it is just so cool. I can't say enough good things about this figure. And it honestly kind of pained me to not put him in the top three, but absolutely an honorable mention for sure. Would have just narrowly didn't make the top three, but I can't wait to add this figure to my collection.
Well, you can say it did make the top three because we had to kind of work this out as a group because we didn't want to say the same thing each, did we? So effectively, you could just say, yeah, we've all chosen this as the number one. But Adam, what is your number one, bud?
It's weird how we just come into this with no I don't know. I feel like there should be more drama leading up to number one. But regardless, my number one pick is Breakin from Super 7's Reaction Figures line.
Music playing.
All right, here we go. So what is there to say here? I realize these are basic, simple, dated-looking figures. I realize that Toy Fair was filled with amazing works of realistic, statuesque plastics, but every 80s property has been exploited to death at this point, except Breakin. Despite being an absolutely fantastic, influential, iconic, feel-good movie, there is nothing in the way of merch. So if you're the biggest fan of the world in this movie, and I am, up until now, all there was to collect was the soundtracks and posters. So to have these figures, it just absolutely makes my heart swell with joy. My one extremely minor complaint about these figures is that, assuming these are likely to be the only Breakin figures we ever see in our lifetime, I wish that Super 7 had put them all in outfits that they wore in the same scene so that you could recreate the scene from the movie. I don't even care what scene. It's just a little weird that they're all wearing clothes from three totally separate parts of the movie. But that said, I absolutely love these figures. Never in my life that I think I'd be able to add Breakin figures to my collection. And for that reason, these are far and away my number one favorite reel from Toy Fair 2019.
I would imagine they're going to make them. Have you seen the amount of figures they actually do churn out from each property?
Yes, but I also think that it's reliant, of course, on how well they sell. And also, one thing that's really awesome about these is they are 100% unique tooling. Like, every little detail is sculpted on, so it's not like a simple redeco would get you another version. So these are going to have to do pretty good to justify a whole new set of them. But, I'll certainly do my part to help with that.
You're ordering like 16 cases from each store near you, aren't you, right now?
Yeah, if you thought my Royal Guard obsession was bad, just wait till you see how many turbo and ozones I have.
That's awesome, mate. Well, it's good, and it's nice that we've got like a nice eclectic mix of top 3 reveals, and I think a lot of it has to do with the nostalgia connection. It's not like, we're not talking about, this is the greatest figure that's ever been created type scenario. We're just, these are things that are speaking to us. And obviously, from the G2 aspect of myself to the irradiated zombie of Justin, and to the, to the Bucky O'Hare, to Adam's Breakin fascination. It's all kind of a mixture of how, like you said, how we're affected in different ways with these things. So it's awesome. And I mean, Toy Fair in itself has been it's turned into something a lot bigger in the last few years, because I remember when you'd hear nothing for a long period of time. Like, there was a big media blackout around the event, wasn't there?
Well, I'm glad those dark days are over.
Me too.
Because now that I'm an entitled adult, I don't want to have the thrill of just finding something in a store. I want to know about it for a full year, so that by the time it actually comes out, I don't care anymore.
The Kickstarter effect, I call that.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's slip on over and let's talk about the rest of Toy Fair, because there's a lot of other stuff that went through that maybe didn't hit our top 3s, but is either just as cool and crazy. But anyway, our honourable mentions. It's way too hard to keep it to strictly top 3s, especially when there was so much new product this year. What other toys and or things did you guys see over the weekend that got you excited? And in addition to that, what was noticeably absent from the show as well? Starting with Adam.
Well, my first honorable mention is really more of an announcement than anything, although they did show a couple of preview images, and that is McFarlane Toys getting the Mortal Kombat license.
Oh, yeah.
This came as part of their deal with Warner Brothers Consumer Products, so they also got the DC license in Harry Potter, which for I'm sure a lot of people is way more exciting than Mortal Kombat. But growing up a Mortal Kombat fan, I always kind of dreamed about what McFarlane would do with that license, because, and obviously in recent years, other brands have kind of taken up the adult collector mantle, but for the longest time, especially in the 90s, McFarlane was sort of the go-to if you wanted, violent adult toys. And so I always thought, man, could you imagine what they do with Mortal Kombat? And so even though, so many companies have already had that license now, I think that it's one of those, I'm glad to finally see it happen, and I'm just eager to see what they do with it. And McFarlane has done a really great job in the video game space these last few years, and I'm confident that they're really going to bring the goods for this one.
I must admit, it's a pretty big one for them to get hold of, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, well, especially that the timing is great with the new game right on the verge of release here. I think it'll be really cool to see how they handle this, and also it's a good time to get into it, because Mortal Kombat is such a legacy brand. Every character now has had at least 11 different versions, and there's so much source material to pull from. It'll be really fun to see how they decide to approach that.
Awesome. Justin, any other honorable mentions for you?
Kind of surprised that I didn't put some of them in my top 3, but Marvel Legends just kind of killed it with a bunch of different releases, I think, for Toy Fair. They had the vintage Colossus versus Juggernaut, and the Wolverine versus Hulk, kind of from Wolverine's first appearance,
so
and
cool.
Some really awesome kind of figures kind of going back in time a little bit, and so there was some really cool stuff that just came out through Marvel Legends, and there was some other Transformer stuff, like Omega Supreme looked absolutely amazing. Just another figure that didn't quite make my top 3, but it really blew me away. And then toys that I probably will just never own, but I'm always fascinated to see is NECA's doing a couple of new releases for their animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line. They showed a Bebop and Rocksteady were just absolutely crazy. And
can't wait for those.
I know. There was so much, just that it was really tough when you pinged us and want us to come up with a top 3. It was just like, how do we even do this? I mean, and it's weird because I'm in a spot right now in my life where I'm not buying a bunch of stuff, but I can still look at all these pictures and just be totally blown away by what some of these companies are doing. And I'm kind of disappointed, but also kind of happy that, this wasn't happening 5 years ago. Because if this did happen 5 years ago, I probably would have wanted to buy it all, and I probably would have been living on the street somewhere. But as it is now, I can kind of appreciate what I'm seeing without feeling a compulsion to own every single one of them.
Yeah, so I really only have a couple more. And one of them is the Toxie from Toxic Crusaders by Super 7.
So good.
Yeah, as a kid, I was the biggest Toxic Crusaders fan. I just thought it was awesome. I had all the figures, puzzles, vehicles, you name it. And, eventually, obviously, Toxic Crusaders led me to the Toxic Avengers movie and becoming a Troma fan. And so I really love that property. And I always wondered, I think it was Soda Toys and SOTA in the early 2000s, I think, did a Toxie movie figure. But other than that, we really hadn't seen much in the way of merchandise for Toxic Avenger / Crusaders, really for like the better part of 20 years. And then in the last couple of years, Super 7 did a Reaction Figures Toxie, and they did 5 different decos. They did really cool, like glow in the dark, and eventually did a Toxic Crusaders one. And I kind of thought that would be as good as it got. And then out of the blue this year, they showed this amazing, basically like Marvel Legends style Toxie. And I've done a side-by-side here so you can see, but in every way, it's almost an identical match to the original early 90s figure, just, better. So it's really cool. They've even included,
I love that figure, though.
A clear, I don't know if this one glows in the dark, but they've included a clear moppy accessory and obviously his shield and flag mop. And it's just awesome. And I again, just like the Breakin figures, I hope this sells extremely well, because I would love to see this leading to, Headbanger and No Zone and Dr. Killmoff and Psycho and everything else. But I guess step one is buying a whole lot of Toxie. So
I wonder how they're going to do that as well, because, how they do the kind of the Master of the Universe license now. It does remind me of that kind of Motu classic kind of, build.
Definitely.
And I wonder if they're going to do that, because it's that size. I wonder if they're going to do a similar thing of maybe we'll just get a few figures here and there. There definitely has to be a Dr. Killmoff. Definitely they have to do at least one accompanying figure with Toxie at some point. But it's great to see this one. And oh my God, when I saw this posted, I was like, am I looking at the are they just showing the Super 7 one that already exists? And I looked at it closer and I'm like, no, that is even better and looks amazing. So yeah, cannot wait for that. For myself, man, there's loads. There's too much that went on this weekend. RoboCop Super 7, we're talking about Super 7 again, but that RoboCop lineup, including Ed 209, looks so adorable. And of all the things that it shouldn't be, it's adorable, but you've got... I was
going to say, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of RoboCop. Adorable does not.
So there are 3 RoboCop figures that they're looking to bring out by the looks of things. A regular version, an unmasked version, and a battle damage version. On top of that, we looks like we're getting Emil Antonovsky, the acid bath friggin' toxic waste... kind of
what kind of world do we live in right now? This is amazing
that we're getting this action figure exactly. And that's one. And then I think I'm guessing it's Dick Jones. I imagine it's Dick Jones, but with like the I don't know, I suppose the death scene Dick Jones as he's falling out of the building. In any case, an Ed 209, which is just awesome. And I was so down when they brought out that Ed 209 and RoboCop when NECA did the Ed 209 and RoboCop figures. I was just so happy with those. I love them. I still have them, and they're kind of 2 of my favourite things that I own in a weird way. But just the kind of level of detail they went into those figures, I just absolutely love them. But to be getting this little kind of cute lineup of figures is just brilliant. And obviously these are all unpainted prototypes, but still, it looks like a pretty cool little line, and I think will sell really well. That's easy money for them, I think. On top of that, Sagat and Guile Storm collectible figures. Damn, they look amazing.
Oh yeah.
Anything Street Fighter 2 is going to get my attention, including the Savage World stuff that popped up. But this is next level. This Storm collectibles thing, and I don't actually collect Storm collectibles Street Fighter 2 stuff, because if I did, oh my God, it would be game over. There are quite a few out now, and I don't know if I can really justify that right now, but they are so good. I almost might. The Sagat is huge. He's almost like, I think, an inch taller than the Guile figure.
Really, The only thing that hurts Storm Collectibles' appeal to me is the price point, because, like you said, I mean, their product is awesome. I think I'd have to give an honorable mention to their Mortal Kombat stuff too. They showed a Mortal Kombat 3 Cyrax, and he comes with the clear green net feature. That, I mean, just so awesome, like amazing figure.
I agree. You're right, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like, you know, there's only a space for one real masterpiece line in my life. And that's the actual Transformers masterpiece. I think other than that, like it's just too, you get too ridiculous with it, unfortunately. On top of that, the amazing Transformers reveals. I mean, Springer. I mean, that Springer's amazing, isn't it, Justin? I mean,
oh yeah,
like a triple changer. He looks solid in each mode. Oh, if the cartoon that they're doing, if the animation they're doing looks anything like these figures, then
yeah,
wow,
it's going to be pretty incredible.
On top of that, there was a cheeky Ironhide that popped up as well. And I kind of, again, it was like a double take, kind of like, is that Ironhide? And yes, and what an amazing Cybertronian vehicle mode he has. So I think that one's really, really awesome. And then the other Transformers thing I wanted to talk about really quickly was the Wave 4 Siege Battlemaster Smashdown, who is basically a little Minotaur that turns into a Warhammer, but looks like one of the giant snake robots from the early Joe Sunbow miniseries. So like, I'm kind of thinking when I looked at it, initially when I first saw it, I'm like, I didn't think Minotaur. I'm like, oh my god, have they done like a mini G.I. Joe Cobra snake robot thing? And no, it just turns out to be like the angle of which the horns are poking. The colour scheme kind of, you know, is very similar. But obviously, I don't know. It looks similar, but I think I'm just kind of seeing what I want to see when I look at it in that sense. And talking about your Marvel Legends, Justin, the Marvel Legends Cyclops they're bringing out on a vintage Toy Biz style card is just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually several figures in that series. There's a Silver Samurai as well on the purple card. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, so they're just like the early 90s Toy Biz. They're going to have the orange card for the heroes and the purple cards for the villains.
That's amazing.
I got to tell you, like in the 90s when these figures were kind of in their heyday, you know, I literally got a job at KB Toys just because of these Toy Biz action figures. Brilliant. I mean, it struck me with such a sense of nostalgia to see those figures at Toy Fair. It made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, just seeing kind of the old retro 90s packaging, but the new, more modern kind of figure design inside. It's just, it's so amazing. And I feel the same way when I walk down the aisle at Target and see some of those vintage Toy Biz figures with the gray cards that are out there now. It's really amazing. I'm not typically a nostalgia junkie about stuff like that, but for some reason seeing these cards, you know, either at Toy Fair or hanging in store shelves just gives me a really cool feeling. Mostly
just makes me feel old, but I love them.
Well, that too, yeah. That too.
Like when you see Darth Maul and Obi-Wan coming out on the kind of vintage Phantom Menace cards, you're like, oh, for God's sake, vintage. Son, get lost. But then again, this was happening to the 12-inch G.I. Joe collectors when, you know,
that's true.
The same thing happens, man. It's like the circle of life. My last honourable mention is the NECA Kenner style Predator and Neomorph Alien 2-pack, because. And I'll give a shout out to the Alpha Predator that NECA did too, but first off, let's talk about that Kenner style 2-pack. The fact that they've been doing Predators and Aliens now for so long, I'm not amazed, but I'm really happy that they're now doing, rather than a reissue line, rather than reissuing all of what's come before, they're doing figures that haven't seen that release, like, you know, new movie stuff that came out much after the fact, like Prometheus and for the Aliens franchise and so on and so forth, and Aliens versus Predator and the Predator, Predators and Requiem. So with all of that, they're now creating these really cute Kenner style Alien and Predators, and these two to start off with are brilliant. They have action features. They look just, I mean, they're probably going to fit in perfectly to that kind of vintage style collection. And I just like NECA, they just absolutely smash it out of the park for hitting the cues that just make they just tick the boxes for me. When they did the Kenner like deco homages on some of the newer figures, that's really cool and I love it. But this is brilliant. This is like genius to me. This is what the Star Wars retro collection should be doing. It should be recreating figures that haven't had that opportunity in that style, which they are with Grand Moff Tarkin, don't get me wrong. but we're not going to be seeing Kenner reissues here. We're going to be seeing, you know, I think from this point on, we're going to be seeing new stuff in that style, and I think it's brilliant.
I really appreciate what they're doing. I wasn't the Alien and Predator lines from Kenner back in the day. I wasn't really invested in those, so you know the vintage tiebacks doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But I do love what NECA does otherwise, and I totally get what they're doing, and I know it is going to call back to a lot of fans of that era. I know a few fellow collectors of my ancient vintage that were really into those old Kenner Aliens and Predators toys, and they would totally be into this stuff.
I never really collected the vintage Kenner Aliens or Predators, but I always appreciated them. I think the general look of them is super cool, and I think it's always a welcome addition when stuff like this happens, because, you know, if you're really heavily invested in something, like, for example, the way I am in vintage Star Wars, like, that's where my primary collection is, and I've dabbled over the years, but that's really the one that my focus is on. So it always feels good years later to go back and be able to add something to the thing you're most invested in. So like if you had all of those Kenner ones but none of the NECA ones, then it's nice to feel like, you know, somebody gave you a little something all these years later. Yeah.
And I just think NECA, they do some amazing things. It's almost like it's no-brainer stuff as well sometimes, but almost like they just do it. And I just love that, and they do it quick. I mean, they churn some stuff out over the year. Like I'm amazed at how much they actually get produced and put out there, because there's always stuff on the shelves. There's always stuff, you know, and it's you know, it sells through for the majority of it. You get the odd shelf warming thing here, there, and every now and again, like when they do kind of, I suppose, more kind of modern films tend to kind of shelf warm a little bit because it doesn't have that pull, I suppose, at this point. But I mean, that Alpha Predator as well, I've got to give a shout out to that. That is such a cool idea. I think it was like an anniversary of their 100th Predator that they've done or something along those lines. They wanted to do something special. They wanted to do something that hadn't been done before, which I thought was really cool. What I love this, so they kind of design this Predator and they call it the Alpha. It's like the first one, and he's got like bone armor and this kind of like almost like separate rib cage armor thing on his chest, which is just awesome. Like, I don't know what animal he's killed to you know, create this, but it's just brilliant, the thought of, you know, this guy being the first one kind of thing. And on top of that, they gave him this kind of redesigned. For those that aren't aware, in the original Predator movie, the Predator you see fight, like, you know, eventually the one that's been made famous, wasn't the one they were going to use initially. They designed this really kind of whack. Like, the first design wasn't great, and they had Jean-Claude Van Damme running around in this bright red suit. Oh, it was red, wasn't it? It was like an orangey red colour, I think. Because obviously the jungle's green, so they had to have an opposite, you know, it was going to be a lot of CGI, basically. And it looked awful and terrible, and the helmet looked all over the place and weird and wobbly. But what they've done is they've kind of rejigged that and given it to this Alpha Predator, and it looks amazing. And I think that's just some of the homage they tuck into this stuff is just brilliant.
Absolutely.
I have managed to abstain up till this point from this company Arcade 1-Up that does these like home arcade cabinets that you build yourself. You probably see them at like Walmart and GameStop. They showed one at Toy Fair that has Mortal Kombat 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and I gotta say, it looks sexy as hell. So I have nowhere to put it, but there is a slight chance that they might have finally broken me on that one. So I'll update if it happens.
Yeah, we'll need a picture of that one. What about stuff that we've noticed that's absent from this show? Anything that you kind of thought or were expecting, let's say, then didn't happen?
Well, I gotta say, when you see the Master of the Universe Classics lines and all of the kind of the Conan and the Toxic Crusader and all the stuff using that construction, I just have to say, where are my damn Thundercats?
Agreed. What the hell is going on, man? We got like such a small selection of figures in that Matty Collector series, and it killed me because like that, you just know that we're never going to get anything like the original vintage lineup in Thundercats form ever again. Like, it just seems like that property that just it's cursed. Like, they can never greenlight the film. Like, I'm not sure if a lot of that's more like kind of fan pushed more than anything else, but you know, you're always hearing about like a script for Thundercats is in motion, or like development on a film is happening, and then this actor's going to be in the lead, or you hear, the last 2011 release kind of flopped on its which was a shame because it was brilliant. The cartoon was brilliant. The redesigns were fun and interesting, and I really enjoyed it. They were going to do a line with both the new and kind of vintage-inspired figures, and they just it completely. So what's going on, Justin?
I think that brand is cursed. It might be even worse than G.I. Joe, because, I mean, G.I. Joe is pretty much dead at the moment until the new movie comes up, but Thundercats is even worse. They keep on, like, kind of... It's injured, and they keep on lingering it along little by little, but it never completely dies to be reborn, but never completely comes back to life. I don't know.
It's so sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Adam? What have you noticed missing this Toy Fair?
So I actually have a few, and I guess the first one kind of falls into the honorable mentions category still a little bit, but the 1990 Ninja Turtles NECA quarter scale Shredder and Foot Soldier, they're obviously, this goes without saying, amazing, brilliant works of art. They're masterpieces. They easily would have made my list, except I don't collect quarter scale. So I'm go ahead and assume that those will be on my list next year if they're offered as 7-inch figures, which I fully expect they will be.
If they don't, then there's something wrong with the world, because look at the track record for NECA. You know, they've been outstanding in doing this stuff, and they always come through. So I think it's safe bet that we're going to be getting a 7-inch version. I'm going to put it out now. I'm just going out on record as saying it's a definite.
Yeah, I didn't really expect to see it this year, but I mean, I hopefully soon. I do have a few other things though. Mattel has brought back Polly Pocket this year, is the small pocket size thing, and obviously the boy equivalent of that back in the day was Mighty Max, and I fully expected to see Mighty Max revealed at Toy Fair, and was honestly kind of shocked that we didn't. I don't know if there's some kind of rights tied up, because I think that it might have been partially owned by Bluebird, but regardless, that needs to come back. I'm ready for that one. One that really surprised me we didn't see was more Jurassic Park Legacy Collection humans.
Agreed.
And specifically Dennis Nedry, John Hammond, Lex, and Tim. Like, those just seem like such glaring omissions. And it seems to me, anyway, from my observations at retail, that the first wave did very well at Target. They never stayed on peg. So, and that was even the ones that were massively overproduced, like Alan Grant. So, I really hope that does happen at some point, because I would love to have them all, and some of them have never been made as figures before.
I wasn't surprised actually that we didn't see it, because it took so long to get Malcolm out, and I feel like the kind of Jurassic Park Legacy Collection has been leaked literally every time. Like we've always had like the information for it like way in advance, even of these kind of like very secretive kind of situations, and I think we'll see it before it's revealed, is what I'm saying. Like, because Malcolm we knew was happening way before they released it. I was surprised though that we only saw a little bit of the Jurassic World kind of line. There's a few things they're doing, but it wasn't like last year's Toy Fair was huge for Jurassic World. I mean, the amount of stuff they had sprawled out was just mind blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that might just be due to it not being a movie year, though. I fully expect whenever the next movie is, that'll when Dino's in Paris, the movie happens, I fully expect that'll ramp up operations then. Yeah, well, I guess should we clarify that joke for the listeners so that it's not joke? No,
because I'll put the video in there at the end.
Oh, okay.
I'll rip it from the from the movie, and it won't be allowed on YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, a couple of pteranodons land in Vegas, but it's on is it on the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and we saw this in theaters together, and we were the only people in the theater, and this of course broke out into Dinos in Paris and jumping over seats, and I guess I should give my last was hoping but didn't get pick here, which is that I've become really, really invested in the Kotobukiya Artifacts X-Men 92 statues.
Yeah.
I think that they are just absolutely perfect. They are the far and away the best representations of the X-Men animated series ever committed to plastic. And there's been a lot of good ones.
Scarlet statue now, aren't you?
No, I'm not. And they did nearly the entire core team. And I've been getting them all as they come out. They've done Storm, Jubilee, Wolverine, Cyclops, Beast, Bishop, Professor X, Rogue, and Gambit. But then there was a very questionable last pick in my mind, which was that they did Phoenix instead of Jean Grey. And aside from the fact that Phoenix is an extremely small part of the cartoon compared to how much screen time Jean Grey had. The Phoenix figure doesn't even look like it's part of the animated series because she has gold paint, which is obviously a color that can't occur in animation. So I really, really felt like we were going to get a Jean Grey to finish it off. And the fact that we didn't just totally bums me out. And I don't know if I'm going to have to end up like customizing a Phoenix now or something. But it seems like the X-Men animated series in toy form, for whatever reason, it's just been snake bit literally from the beginning. Like, Toy Biz never got around to making the complete team in the correct costumes. To date, they haven't done it in Marvel Legends either.
They're trying.
They're getting there, but it just seems like for whatever reason, nobody can keep the license long enough or decide on a scale long enough for whatever the reason. And I really thought that Kota Bukiya finally, after all these years, was going to be the one to do it. And it looks like they might have dropped the ball one character short. So that was probably my biggest disappointment of the show.
Oh, yeah, I know. I have to agree. I think that is a glaring omission considering the track record of the previous releases. But I'm going to have to go out and say the lack of Joe product in general, like not just the fact that we know there's going to be no action figures and so on and so forth until the movie or until closer to the film. There was obviously there was that huge rumor that was going around early on of the 6-inch Mezco line that was like it felt like to me like it was almost ramping up, like it had been like leaked information to be ramped up to something like a Toy Fair reveal. Now I was almost fully expecting, I was literally hovering over TweetDeck, friggin' all of the social networks, like Instagram, everything. I was looking at everything, just waiting for that, like, you know, with keyword searches like that coming up and all this kind of stuff. It looked like I was in Swordfish with all those like, you know, like 700 screens around me, and it was like that bit in the last Batman movie. Well, no, not the last one. Is it the Joker one with the all the screens that I can't remember if it's the last one or not. Anyway, it's irrelevant. So basically, I'm going nuts thinking, I'm just waiting for something. I'm waiting for a G.I. Joe anything. And what do we get? We get like a freaking ridiculous statue, which, I'm sorry, but it's just, you know, off. And and we get a was it a trading card deck, which we already knew about. We already knew about both of these things anyway. We already knew about these things prior to Toy Fair. And I'm kind of looking at it like, okay, so no Joe, you know, I'm not gonna be too upset. There's loads of amazing stuff at Toy Fair this year, but I mean, I'm guessing now that there is an absolute. It feels like there's a freeze on the license in general. Like it's like they almost out there said, well, that's already gone. You know, we've already got this going. That has to, you know, see out its contract. This is so minimal it doesn't even matter. You know, like say like the card aspect, like the trading game thing. It's just, you know, really basic merchandise that doesn't even relate to G.I. Joe. Like the, you know, what it's for other trading card games effectively. So brilliant. So I'm kind of looking at it thinking, okay, so we have to wait for the movie to come out before we get anything G.I. Joe, obviously. And it just seems like everything else that was like almost like floating around on the wings has gone away. There was supposed to be more stuff from, well, you know, What Not Toys was supposed to be a thing. What happened to them? Like completely wiped off the face of the earth. There's other stuff as well that has just kind of gone completely dark. The mindset is complete block, apart from these two random things that we see going into this year. What are your thoughts on the lack of Joe stuff?
You know, it was not altogether surprising, but still a little bit disappointing. I mean, especially as you say, I mean, even in years past, without an action figure line, there's been some sort of licensed stuff, and it seems like the stuff that we did get was kind of more of a phone-in than anything else. I mean, obviously they put a lot of hard work into that, whatever frickin' Scarlet statue that thing is, but it's really doesn't appeal to me, and I'm not sure it really truly appeals to much of the G.I. Joe demographic, to be honest with you. But it's, you know, I don't know, there just was nothing really at all to write home about. And I really do think, you know, as much as rumors have kind of come out. It's pretty much confirmed at this point that until the new movie comes out, we are just not going to see anything, whether it's a third-party license, whether it's a Hasbro produced thing. I mean, I really, people hoping for like the Mezco line, as awesome as that would have been. I mean, do we really think that Hasbro is going to license out an actual action figure in a 6-inch scale to a competitor's company a year before the movie's going to come out? I mean, I think if they're at all interested in doing action figure production for the G.I. Joe brand, they're going to keep it in-house, and they're going to wait until the movie hits and then try to take full advantage of that movie rather than just letting a licensee kind of write a check and make off with a resurgent property. I mean, I don't know, and I kind of feel like G.I. Joe's at this really weird place right now where even if we do get a new toy line in conjunction with the movie, which we certainly will, that it's not necessarily going to be anything we recognize, or at least not in the scale that we recognize. So we'll have to kind of see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I was bummed that it was a Toy Fair weekend without really any mention of G.I. Joe, although I wasn't necessarily shocked by that, especially when when Hasbro's advertising for a new G.I. Joe brand manager, a week or two ahead of time.
Yeah.
Nothing is being worked on in-house if they don't even have anybody to run the brand. So I guess I'm not entirely surprised.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. The brand manager situation, absolutely. And I think it's really more so the fact that in the last couple of years, even though there's been not much going with Joe, like it's just been like the club, the kind of the last thing retail was the 50th. And I kind of felt like it was still being like licensed to almost death. Like there were shades and sneakers and this and that,
yeah,
and all sorts of stuff coming out. Like there was still always something Joe, and it was always like every couple of months there was something, and I just feel like there was really, like, we're talking like almost no. Okay, they're gearing up for the Snake Eyes movie. Absolutely understood that, and obviously they're not far enough along to reveal or show anything, but even like. And we did get, I suppose, at the beginning of Toy Fair, the explanation that G.I. Joe was going to be happening in 2020, along with Micronauts, and we did get a logo reveal, but it wasn't the logo reveal that is plastered all over the place and has like the Snake Eyes movie, etc., written all over it.
It was congratulations. The logo is going back to what you've known it's been for 40 years.
And was just a base. I mean, do we? I mean. 100%, do we know that's what it's going to look like, or is it going to be different? What is the official thing going to be? Like, I want to, because it's not going to be called G.I. Joe the movie. It's going to be called Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes,
G.I. Joe semicolon Snake Eyes. I don't think they'll put the word colon in there, but maybe they probably won't put semi in there either. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me like they've just gone, okay, we'll just let it go for this year. And I don't know, I'm kind of getting really antsy. I need to see something. I need to see some element of something that's being worked on,
Yeah. I hear you.
I pretty much echo everything you guys said. I mean, it's just, I feel like we're just kind of in a holding pattern, and I've just accepted that now. And, the license stuff does get a little, it's almost off-putting at some point, because I'm sure to all of us, G.I. Joe is a toy line first and foremost. And so while I appreciate having things like shoes and hats and trading card holders and statues and everything else, at the end of the day, it's like, it's almost like a reminder of what we actually want and don't have. And sometimes I think you're better to just make that clean break. So
yeah.
And we still didn't get that.
Yeah. So, I think this is just going to be a conversation we have over and over for the next couple of years. But I have full confidence that when the time is right, it will return. I really don't think that it's a brand you can kill. I think once the dust settles, I'll get over it. But I just think it was because I was so like on edge, waiting for something to happen, that I kind of built it up, and then at the end of it, it's just this like, it's not even a relief. There's no feeling at the end of it. It's this kind of peters out, and it's like Monday, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're definitely not getting anything Joe related. We're not even going to get discussion on something more than we've already heard 1,000 times. So I don't know, it's just everything else seemed to be getting revealed. Everything else is being, every other vintage everything is being shown off. And it's like, well, G.I. Joe's you've had your shot, and you didn't do it well enough, and now you're gonna have to wait until a film comes out. So I'll continue to be patient.
which I'm not being at the moment. But I'll continue to be patient, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm still expecting something, you know. And if it doesn't come soon, then I'll just leave Joe altogether and start collecting My Little Pony. But anyway, guys, thanks for jumping on and chatting about Toy Fair. This recap has definitely gone on longer than I thought it would.
Shocker.
That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-hosts, Adam Riches and Justin Bell. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of these platforms with feedback, questions, or to say, who do you think you are? A serious operation now? No, not even close. Look out for more of these news bursts that we are posting on the Facebook page from now on. Full Force.